Welcome to the latest edition of Inside Carolina. I'm your host, Hannah Horn, a proud alumna of the university. Well, we are on location at the Rice Athletics Center for a real treat. We are sitting down with the new athletics director, Jeremiah Donati. He'll tell us a little bit about himself and what is in store for our beloved Gamecocks. Join us as we go inside Carolina. Jeremiah, what a pleasure to talk with you. Tell me about your first few months here at USC so far.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I'm not from South Carolina. I didn't go to USC, but I felt like part of the family on day one, and just so grateful to all those that have literally and figuratively put their arms around me and helped support me through the transition. It's been a lot of work, but it's been great.
So tell me, when the phone call came in from the University of South Carolina, what about what happens here in the state of South Carolina and at our flagship university excited you most about the job?
We loved TCU, we loved Fort Worth, and probably would have been very happy there for a long time. And so it was going to take the right opportunity to consider leaving. And so when you think about the city of Columbia, the state of South Carolina, the brand, the school, the trajectory of our programs, the leadership here, most importantly, with President Emeritus and Thad Westbrook, the chair of the board, it was a no-brainer. I mean, you kind of line all those things up and you've got something really special.
What have you learned so far about the culture of winning here at the University of South Carolina?
Yeah, well, big expectations, and I had mentioned that people want to win here, and they want to win, not just on the scoreboard, but in everything we do. And I love that. I'm a very competitive person, and I wouldn't want to go to a place where there weren't those expectations. So I welcome those. You have to embrace those. In this job, you have to have thick skin. There are going to be losses. You can't win every game. Shocker. I hate to say that, Gamecock Nation, but there are going to be tough losses and there are going to be tough seasons. But the key is, how can you just get better and better and better? And what are the things that we can do to get a little bit better every day so that we put our sports and teams in position to really have success? I've learned that it is a passionate fan base. I love that. We've got a great brand, and so I'm going to be finding ways to enhance the brand and find ways we can elevate our profile. And so, but we're off to a great start because this is not a fixer-upper. Coach Tanner and many others have done an incredible job here for years. And so, I get to come in a really good time. I think in life, you want to go to places where you can make an impact, but are also on a good trajectory. And so I certainly am here and on that trajectory because there are so many wonderful things going on.
Tell me about a day in the life of being the athletics director at the University of South Carolina.
Well, no two are the same. And that's the fun part about the job. I mean, there's a lot of fun parts about the job, but every day literally is different. There's some days you find yourself in the office all day returning phone calls, and there's some days you're dreaming and building things and meeting with donors and going to games and interacting with student athletes. And like any other job, there's some really tough decisions that need to be made. So, it's hard to say what are the 5 things an AD does. I mean, I'm directly responsible for hundreds of student athletes, in this case, almost 500. I'm responsible for their success and their development. And so, that's why you hire good coaches, and that's why you build out a good staff to help support these young men and women during their time. And we've got tremendous young men and young women that are here that want to do the right things and want to develop and want to be proud, want to make all of Gamecock Nation proud, and they want to win and they want to make their lives better. So there's an energy on a college campus that just can't be duplicated. And so there's an old saying that if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And I think that definitely applies to me in this role.
How does a degree in law help you in this state? There's a lot of integration, I'm sure, of contracts, and we'll get into NIL in a minute, but how does that help you?
Well, at the time, who would have ever thought that you need it as much as you do? But and I always thought that law school would be a chance to kind of get ahead, to separate myself. At the time, I didn't realize how much we'd be using it. But if you think about sports law is not necessarily a body of law. It's made up of a number of different types of law. It's contract law and antitrust law and tort law and property law, all these things, even criminal law sometimes. And so
labor law.
Yeah, labor. Excuse me. Thank you. Labor law too. So if you kind of bring all those together, having a background or being directionally familiar with those issues has been a real blessing for me in my 7+ years as AD.
The college sports landscape is no doubt changing. There's a lot of talk about NIL and the role of business and sports merging in today's landscape. But how are you navigating that particular area of our athletics department?
It's the same question that you're asking me as what every single athletic director and every athletic department across the country is faced with. And so it's not one thing or two things, it's a number of things. And so one of the things I had said to the president and the board chair in the interview process was we need to make sure that we are preparing for the next 5 to 10 years. And so we're making decisions and operationalizing on the next 5 to 10 years. We're in the midst of settling the biggest lawsuit that we've been faced with as an association, the House case settlement that you've undoubtedly heard about. And so that is going to change the way in which we conduct business forever. And how fast we can adapt to them and be nimble will be a huge indicator of how successful we'll be.
Now, I understand that there are some changes being made over at Williams-Brice Stadium. What can you tell us about some of the renovations happening?
We are in desperate need of some facility upgrades from a premium seating standpoint. We're well behind our SEC peers. And why is that important? Well, it's important because I think there's a fan appetite, a donor appetite for those enhanced game day experiences, but also the revenue that we could unlock from Willie B is huge. And it's one of the ways that we can help offset the rising cost of our business. That's going to be awesome. And it's going to have an ability to kind of unlock some potential from a branding standpoint, from a sponsorship activation standpoint, a revenue standpoint, and just some of the preliminary renderings and those that I've seen, it gives you goosebumps to think about what we could do with our amazing brand and taking it even higher.
You mentioned that you take this job very seriously, not only the legal and business parts of it, but that you do have these young people who are in your care per se, to grow not only on the fields but in the classrooms. What is your philosophy on their success there?
What's most important for all of our 500 student athletes is they leave here better than we found them. They leave here with a USC degree because that catapults them to the rest of their life. What's been in the news, especially the last few years, is NIL, and we're paying these kids and these players all this money, and we are, relatively speaking, compared to what it was. That's for another interview. But what I'd also tell you is that most kids aren't getting those kind of dollars. And what's most important is they leave here with their degree and setting them up for the rest of their life. Because, we can debate NIL. I've always been of the impression, and maybe it's because of my previous career, that these kids did deserve to be compensated for their talents and for the exposure and the value they bring to a university. Whenever they're done playing at Willie B or Colonial Life or wherever, whatever sport they're in, they've got the rest of their life that they've got to go out into the real world following that. But it's our job to make sure that we're continuing to fill our educational mission here at the university all throughout the department. This is something that we've got to be very intentional about to make sure that the national narrative doesn't get in the way of the student part of the student athlete.
So one thing that if you haven't learned about South Carolina, you're learning is that our fans can be a little impatient on getting those wins.
Sure.
Talk to us a little bit about what you are going to do here in this office in your role to create these winning seasons for all of our athletics programs.
Well, it starts with the coaching. You need to have the right coaches, and those coaches need to have the resources around them. And I don't mean just money. I mean resources from a support standpoint rather, and support staff. They have all those things need to work. You've got to really have a solid foundation there. It's really about talent acquisition, talent from the coaching standpoint and talent from the student athlete standpoint. And if you can attract both, you've got a chance. And then when you get here, are you aligned with your coaches? Is there good culture? And so those are the things I'm not calling plays. I'm very seldomly involved in recruiting. I am probably more than the average athletic director, but that's because I like to be, but I can help in the other areas. And so making sure that to the extent that we can, that our facilities are in a good position, that our NIL, our rev share, our revenue sharing, that we're providing those resources so that we've got a chance to be competitive in the marketplaces and being competitive with our salaries and making sure that we're really getting the right people around to support those student athletes. That's where I can help. Candidly, we've been fortunate to have a lot of success in those areas, but it really starts with the people. You're only as good as the people you're surrounded with. And so I think finding new revenue sources, right? We can't continue to be with this House case looming and the new pressures we'll have. We need to find a way that we can have a sustainable future just so that the university can thrive, so we can do other things, so the law school, the med school, and everyone else can continue to have experience their growth. And so we need to do that inside the athletics department and be self-sufficient long term. But right now, that's the big challenge, is how you do all those things for coaches to put out a winning product while also being as small of a burden as you can to the university overall. That's the same issue that every athletics director and every athletic department across the country is experiencing.
Well, we welcome you to this role.
Thank you.
On behalf of the Inside Carolina team, again, welcome.
Thank you.
And we would be remiss if we didn't thank Ray Tanner, Coach Tanner, for his incredible tenure in this helm and here at the university for so many years. But we're 2-0 now with you in this role.
Well, Coach Tanner, by the way, has been unbelievable. He's been a great friend and a great resource. He and I speak often, and he'll give me like little pointers on who to go to for this and who not to go to for that. But he's been fantastic, and what a great legacy he's left behind that I'm fortunate I get to follow.
All right, well, go Gamecocks.
Go Gamecocks.
It is an exciting time to be a Gamecock, no doubt. Our special thanks to the Rice Athletic Center for hosting us today as well. That is all the time we have, but be sure to share this with your friends, family, and fellow alumni if you enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you next time right here inside Carolina.